Hey y'all, in this quick tutorial I'm going to show you some basics about LiChess. I want to stress that I'm just going to cover some of the basics. There are a lot more in-depth features that LiChess has to offer, but in this tutorial it will certainly help you get up and running. First thing you're going to need to do is make a LiChess account. So you're just going to go to LiChess, LiChess.org, and you will hit register. When you register, you're going to be asked to make a username. Keep in mind that you cannot change this username later on. The only modification you can make to it is you can change the capitalization of some letters within your username, but once you set your username, that's it forever. So put a little bit of thought into what you want your username to be. So here's the home page for LiChess. As you can see, I have a couple of games going on. We can see that right in the middle. And then there's a whole bunch of menus going along the top, and that's mainly where I'm going to focus. Back when I said that there are a lot more features that you can get into, if I scroll down, you're going to see a lot of stuff from tournaments to leaderboards and other things you can join, other tournaments you can join, and some news. So there's a ton of stuff that's going on. It's very easy to start a game in LiChess just by using this menu right here on the right. You can play a friend, which is somebody that you've already connected with on LiChess. You can create a random game. You can play versus the computer. Everything that you would expect in an online chess platform is here. But what I want to spend a little bit of time on are LiChess teams and LiChess classes. If you go to the Community tab in the upper left, you'll see three options: Players, Teams, and Forum. Forum is a general discussion forum that's open to everybody in the public. Players is every available online player. But if I go to Teams, we're going to see some more options come up. On the left-hand side, it's going to say My Teams, Leader Teams, All Teams, New Teams. To create a team for your school, you'll go to New Teams, and you'll fill out the information here. Now, I wanted to make it easy for other schools to find my team, so I just called myself Palatine High School. When filling out the form to make your new team, just put your school name where it says name here. Joining policy, a confirmation is requested to join. I'd really recommend that, because what that does is it will make sure that only the people that you want in your team are going to be joining that team. Location is optional. You can put the town that you're in. The description is optional. You can put whatever you like. I just put Palatine High School 2021. Don't forget to complete this puzzle. It's just a confirmation to make sure you're not a bot. So you want to go ahead and find the checkmate position, and then you'll click on New Team. Once you've done that, you'll see this option come up that says My Teams, and your team will sit right here. And here's a look at my team. Just a couple of things that I'd like to show you here. There is an open chat for the team. As the coach, you have the option of turning that off or keeping it on. It's totally up to you. Then we take a look, and you have some options for only team tournaments, such as team battles, team tournament, Swiss tournament. These are only for players that are within your team. You could send a quick message to everybody in your team. And then underneath the settings, you have a couple more options. This brings you back to what it looked like when you filled out the initial form to start your team. You can change the confirmation. You can put in the location if you want. Here's the description that I have. There's one thing here that I would like to call your attention to, and it's this close button right here. You want to be very careful with this close button. This close button does not mean close this window. This close button means close this team forever. You do not want to do that, because once that happens, you cannot undo this. We've already had a couple of teams hit this close button and then hit OK without reading this confirmation, and it shuts out their team, and that cannot be undone. It does not mean close this window. That is cancel. I really wish LiChess would put close this team forever right here in the description, but they don't. It makes it look like it's closing the window. To close the window, you can either hit the back button in your browser or just hit cancel, and it will bring you right back to your home page. One of the other things is here's all the players on my team. Now, there's been some discussion about players' names. Look, that should be up to the individual team or the individual conferences. In the MSL, most of our players were not on LiChess, and we decided that it would be very helpful if we just had the student's first initial, their full last name, and their school IHSA code. So Palatine is PALPT. You can decide as a school or as a conference, whatever names you want to put down there, but I also want to be very clear. If a player already has an existing LiChess account, As a coach, if you want them to use that existing account, great, go for it. We're not saying that players need to have a new account. They can use an existing account. It's up to the player. Some players do want to keep it separate. And I do have a couple players that already have an existing LiChess account, but they wanted their Scholastic Chess and their Casual Chess to be on separate accounts. That was their decision. Other than that, there's not much you can do here within Teams, but Teams is going to become an important place when we're playing another high school. Within Teams, you'll also find the forum. We don't use this at all. This can be used as a discussion board. Things that get posted here can be seen within the team and also publicly. We just don't use it all. We have other methods of communication that we find useful. So why is creating a team important? Again, I want to stress this. It's up to the individual conference and the coaches within that conference to decide the process. But the MSL, we've tried this out a few times and it seems to work pretty easily. Last night we played Hersey High School, and when our players wanted to challenge another player from that school, it was super easy for them to find each other. They simply went to community, they went to teams, they went to all teams, and in the search they just needed to type Hersey, and what they'll see is right here, Hersey High School. Now, if there were more Hersey High Schools in the state, then a list of all the Herseys would show up. But I like what Hersey did here where they put MSL Chess Team. I wish I'd put that in my team name or at least our IHSA school code. But I can't change the team name once it's started, so maybe that's something else that you want to consider when making your team. I'll click on Hersey, and here are all their players. Now here you'll see a good example. Here's Arlington Heights Hersey. Here's their IHSA code. But they do have a couple players here that already had existing LiChess accounts, and they wanted to keep those names. Again, that's fine. That's between you, your conference, your players, and the coaches. To create a challenge, it's quite easy. You would find the person that you're playing, their LiChess name. You simply hover over that person, and you hit the swords. When you hit the swords, you'll get some options. And here's what we decided in the MSL. Everything is going to be standard. We're not going to play Crazy Chess or Chess 960 or any of the other things. We're playing standard, and we're playing real time. Not correspondence. Correspondence, again, would mean if you want to allow for like 2 weeks per move or an unlimited amount of time. No, we're playing real-time live chess. And we decided on 45 minutes per side. Now, another difference with LiChess versus chess.com and other platforms is they don't allow for delay time. They have increment timing. And what that means is instead of waiting 5 seconds before the clock counts down, it'll add 5 seconds after every move. So we decided to play with the timing a little bit, and instead of going 55-5 or 65, we decided to go with 45-5 to see how the timing was going to work out. And so far, it's been pretty good. We decided that every game within our conference versus another team is going to be rated. This helps LiChess with its cheat detection. If you play casual games, there is no cheat detection. I'll get more onto the cheat detection in just a second. And then a player would need to hit if they're black, if they're white, or if it's going to be random. So what we decided in the MSL is that the player of white will always create the challenge. So the player of black just needs to sit back. And when the player of white creates the challenge, they would hit the white king, and then it creates the challenge, which I'm not going to do here because I don't want to create the challenge against this player. Once a challenge is created, here's the screen that you'll see. It'll say waiting for opponent. But here's what your opponent will see. When your opponent is signed into LiChess, and again, they should use the web version and not the app, they'll see the little swords up here has a little pop-up with a number 1 on it. And when they click on that pop-up or tap on it, they'll say, hey, I got a challenge here. And as soon as they hover over the challenge, they can either accept it or they can deny it. You simply accept it by hitting the check mark. And away you go. Here's the game. Now, there's a couple settings within LiChess that in the MSL we've discussed to keep things kind of fair or keep them like a real-time game. And I'm going to go through those settings right now. However, I really want to say again that these settings are up to you and your conference. We have no official word from the IHSA or the ICCA about what these settings should be. So I'm just going to run through some of the ones that the MSL are using because we thought they were important. We may change them as the season goes by, but for now, they seem to be working pretty well. First is this, if a player taps on their name and they go to sound, they can turn the sound off for everything here. They can just turn it to silent, and there's also a little slider here they can use for their volume. There are little clicks that happen when you move a piece. It sounds like a little tap. It's nice to have that off. And also, if they tap on their name, they'll see this gear that says Preferences. Well, here are all the preferences that we're going to set in the MSL. The piece animation is up to you. None, fast, normal, slow. It doesn't really affect the time of the game that much. But we said that material difference, board highlights, and piece destinations were all going to be off. And these are some of the most important ones to us. We don't want the material difference to show up in their notation during the game. That's something that we figure players should have to be able to calculate on their own. Board highlights. The main reason why we turned off board highlights is because it will highlight your king red if you are in check. Piece destination, valid moves, and pre-moves will show you exactly where all your pieces can move when you click on a piece. So if I were to click on a pawn, it would show me all the available squares that that pawn can move to. This is something that as a player, you should already know where your pieces can move to, and you shouldn't need the aid of the computer, so we said off on all three of these. Board coordinates. This is dealer's choice. I like mine on the outside of the board. They're a little bit easier to read. List moves while playing. Always. Absolutely. This is just showing notation. Speaking of notation, we have the letter instead of the chess piece symbol. This is going to help our new players get used to the notation system. Zen mode is off. Show board resize handle. That's fine. I'll take it. You can have that on always or never, only on initial position. This doesn't really affect the game very much. Blindfold chess. No, we're not playing blindfolded chess. There's a couple more settings that we have to hit here. And if you'll see here in the upper left, there's chess clock. So we have tenths of a second. That's totally up to you if you want to have that on or off. Horizontal green process bar. We're going to set that to no because we figured that was kind of like the little LED light on a chess clock, and we just wanted to have that off. Play a sound when time gets crucial. No, we have no sound in our clocks when we're playing during any other match, so why have it on now? And give more time. I'm going to talk about this for a minute. We put always. And the reason why we put always, we originally put never, but then we had an issue. We have some students that had Wi-Fi issues and they got bumped out of their games. And it was a good 5 to 10 minutes for some of those players before they got back into their game. And it was unfortunate. We don't want to penalize a player that's already having a hard time connecting from home with a time penalty when they're just trying to stay involved in scholastic chess. So we left it as always. And the way we're doing this in the MSL is this, is if two players are going at it and one player just leaves the game, we're going to assume the Wi-Fi is gone. If a player's Wi-Fi is out, they need to take a screenshot of their settings to show their Wi-Fi is out in case if we ever need to ask for proof of it. But once they get back in, they're going to alert the coaches that somebody got bumped out and now they're back in and they need more time on their clock. The coach will go to that game and say, okay, let's give this player 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever is appropriate for the amount of time that they were gone. Now, we're not going to have it in casual games only because we are playing rated games, so we are going to keep it on for always for all games. The last group of settings is game behavior. There's a few here that are important. I really recommend that you have a click between two squares. We had a bunch of players that were dragging along bishop or maybe a queen, rook, whatever it is, and they accidentally dropped the piece on a different square than they intended on moving it to. And then it's over. That's their move. We also have pre-moves off. Pre-moves, you think you have a forced mate, so you enter in all the moves that you think's going to take care of it, but maybe you didn't pay attention to something else on the board, and all of a sudden you put in these pre-moves and you're going to wind up losing the game because you're trying to think 3, 4, 5, 6 moves ahead. So we just don't want that to become an issue, so we got rid of pre-moves. Takebacks, never. We're never going to allow takebacks under any circumstances. Promote to queen automatically? Never. We're not going to have that done because some players like to promote to a rook or a knight or something else. Claim the draw on a threefold repetition automatically. We're going to put never. Again, it's something that the player should have to know how to do. Move confirmation. Now, it's either going to be never or correspondence games. Again, correspondence games are going to be casual games that you're playing over a week or a few days. But if you're playing real time, you don't want to have the move confirmation on. Why? Because what a player can do is drag a piece anywhere on the board where they want it to go. They can look at the board and say, is this really what I want? And then they can go ahead and say, yes, this is my move. Well, we don't allow that on the vinyl, so we're not going to allow it here. So we put on correspondence games only. confirm resignations and draws. We set this to yes. We did have somebody accidentally resign the game and their opponent took advantage of it. They just tapped the wrong thing when they were unfamiliar with what they were hitting because they were brand new to LiChess. So we're just going to leave confirm resignation and draw offers on there. Castling method, we're going to move the king 2 squares, just like you have to do in real chess. Got to move the king first, and then the rook will match. Input moves with the keyboard. No, we had a couple players that tried this, and they typed something wrong, and they wound up making a move that they didn't want to make. We're also hitting the snap arrows to valid moves off as well, and say goodbye, because we want that to be on the players. Now, again, you can set these preferences however you want it. And during our team practices, we have walked through all of these settings with our players. And when we've had head-to-head matches against another school, we've gone through all these settings with every player. Now, what I don't know is this. What if one player has these turned on and one player has them turned off? Will one player's settings trump another player's? I really don't know. I'm not experienced enough with LiChess to be able to make that call. If you test it and you figure it out, let me know. But as far as settings go, that's all you really need. And now if I go back to my game, all those settings that I put in there are now in effect. You can change the settings while you're in the middle of a game. All right, so we're back on the home page. Just have a couple more things to show you, and they are all under this Learn tab. The lessons that LiChess has built in are fantastic. You have every introductory lesson and concept that you would want to have. All the basics here go through every concept that you would want any of your players to be able to breeze through in just a little bit. It has some more advanced settings. One thing I'd like to point out here is the video section down here. When we take a look at it, there are hundreds and hundreds of videos on any topic you can possibly imagine. And they also break them down by topic here on the left-hand side. Also underneath the Learn tab, we have puzzles. Something that's really nice about this is you have unlimited puzzles. You can play as many puzzles as you want. Just keep on going, keep on going. On chess.com, with the free account, you get like 3 or 5 puzzles, I forget. But on LiChess, you have unlimited amount of puzzles, and it keeps track of your puzzle rating. And you can see I'm on a little bit of a decline here lately. Also under Learn, you have Practice. Now I like the Practice as well because here we have a whole bunch of other lessons. We have some beginning tactics and basic tactics over here. Then we get into the intermediate stuff and pawn endgames. This is stuff that every player can use help with. And the last thing I'd like to show you won't find in any of the sub-menus, at least not that I found. And it's a team class. You need to go to lichess.org/class. And from there, you can sign your team up for a class. And here's what it looks like. If you'll notice, I have my LiChess class right here. And when I click on it, here's Palatine High School. And here are all my players within my class. So it's all the same people that are on my team, but here's what's different. I have a news section, and this is only for people in the class, and I can send an email to everybody because I had them all use their school email account. Again, we have other forms of communication that we use for the team, but to me, here's the most important part. Here's the progress. And under the progress tab, I can take a look at any individual and see the progress they're making in any of these categories here for any of these time frames right here. Again, you won't find this class anywhere in the other menus, at least not that I found. So you need to go to lichess.org/class and sign your school up for a class. So if we're playing another school, what's our process in the MSL? In the MSL, every school is using Zoom. So that's the platform we're using to meet up. The home team will send out an invite to the visiting team. The visiting team will join the Zoom, and then we'll have all the players in one Zoom session. We'll then make breakout rooms. Little suggestion, if you're going to use Zoom and you're going to use breakout rooms, make a bunch of extra breakout rooms for extra players or maybe private meetings between coaches and a few students to go over a few things. And we put our board 1 in room 1, our board 2 in room 2, and all the way on down. We do the same thing with our extra player. Then our players will challenge each other. The player of white will always create the challenge just so one team isn't doing all the work. And what we figured that's going to look like is just like players pass each other notation books so they can go ahead and write each other's names on there. A player will just say, all right, here's my LiChess username. So the player of white will go to the appropriate school and find that player and create the challenge. Now, once they've created the challenge, they're going to go ahead and play. What does the coach do? The coach can see all the games that are happening live. If you navigate back to your team page, you'll see all your players, and if you hover over any of the players that are currently involved in a game, you'll see a little board pop up underneath. Now what you can do is you can click anywhere on that board, and here is the game happening live. And each game is given a unique URL up here in the menu bar. And what I'll do is just copy that. And then using Eric Zerwin's spreadsheet, I'll go find that game within the match sheet, and I'll paste that URL right next to that game. Now here's a spreadsheet of a week that we've already played, and I can still click on any of these games right here, and I can see the match. And I can go through, I can watch it live, or I can even see it at the end. If I wanted to, if you notice that we're in the spectator room, there was a little bit of a chat that was going on here. This is only private to the spectators. There are also some notes. You can write some private notes. So if you wanted to make some notation about the game to go over with your player later on, you can. So it's actually really nice. And then when a player is done with their match, they go back into the main room of Zoom with the coaches and every player that isn't playing, and we can all watch individual games together. And the players in the breakout rooms, they can't hear you. Now, some will say maybe this leads to kibitzing or cheating. You know, that really just goes to you and your team and the relationship you have with your team and the expectations that you set with your team. Cheating. You know, LiChess, the reason why we go with rated games is because apparently it has an unbelievable track record at being able to detect cheating. It just connects to every database that's out there, and if a player is using a database to make moves, well, it's going to eventually catch it. Now, I say eventually because if you take a look at the ratings here, there's a little question mark next to each player. And that's because they're new. And the more rated games they play, the more it gets to know what kind of player they are. And it also connects to their tactics that they do and the lessons that they do. And if they start playing well above what they have been playing, LiChess's algorithm will kind of say, hey, hold on, what's going on here? And it will start to check their games against those known databases. And if it detects anything, it'll flag it. Now, I haven't had any personal experience with this, but from what I understand from people that have, is that it's pretty good. Look, this is never going to be as good as two people sitting across from each other with the pieces in front of them and the vinyl on the table. This is a good substitute. It's not perfect. There's going to be flaws. There are going to be mistakes. But hopefully with the basics that you learned here in this tutorial, it'll be enough just to get you going and be able to make it so one school can play up against another school and we can give our students a season this year when so many other things are getting canceled. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you have any questions, I'm sure a quick Google search will help you out. Here's to a good season.